G20 के लोकाचार पर आधारित दुनिया में शांति की संस्कृति को बढ़ावा देने के लिए विज्ञान, धर्म और तत्वज्ञान की अनूठी तथा ऐतिहासिक 9वीं वैश्विक संसद वाराणसी के श्री काशी विश्वनाथ धाम कॉरिडोर में आयोजित की गई थी। सर्वश्रेष्ठ वैज्ञानिक और आध्यात्मिक ज्ञान तथा तत्व ज्ञान को एक साथ लाते हुए शांति तथा सद्भावना की संस्कृति को बढ़ावा देने और एक शांति प्रिय समग्र वैश्विक समाज का विकास करने के तरीकों पर इन 3 दिवसीय संसद में चर्चा हुई। काशी में आने वाले तीर्थ यात्रियों तथा भक्तों की आसान आवाजाही के लिए प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी द्वारा बनाए गए काशी विश्वनाथ कॉरिडोर को विश्वधर्मी प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर विश्वनाथ कराट जी ने काशी विश्वनाथ ज्ञान कॉरिडोर का रूप दे दिया और यहीं पर संपन्न हुई विज्ञान, धर्म और तत्वज्ञान को समर्पित 9वीं वैश्विक संसद। उत्तराखंड से आए प्रख्यात दार्शनिक और विचारक स्वामी आशुतोष उर्फ स्ट्रॉबल जी ने सभी श्रोताओं को अपने वक्तव्य से संबोधित किया।
I can only say Dr. Vishwanath, name and form, Vishwanath. That says everything. As I said, yes, I'm living in Kusani, and Kusani is sometimes called the Switzerland of India. But I would say this is actually an insult. You cannot compare the Himalaya to anything, but not only because of majestic value. No, you cannot judge a place or from the climate condition. That is like judging a person for what clothes he's wearing. Can I have the first slides? Now, what is it? What makes, for example, India so special, or more than India, the spiritual centers so special? Every one of us and these millions of people who visit these pilgrim centers, they do it because they feel something, they get something. Maharshi explained it once. We have to understand these 3 levels, and we heard today quite a bit about it. We have the Adhyatmic, we have the Adidevic, and we have the Adibhautik. We heard physics. The physics of Nobel Prize of this year was going to people who declared that actually the universe is just a manifestation of the observer. And that's exactly the important point. Because to understand the softness or the importance of a pilgrim center, or why people feel better, is because the pilgrim centers have more levels of Adidevic and more power of Adhyatmic. Because of the long tradition of pujas and worship and meditation, these values have been more lively, and the Adibhautic has become thinner. So the transcendental levels, this Adhyatmic shines more true. That is the important point. Now, to explain these 3 levels, we know the Adhyatmic we have heard today, unified field. I don't have to go into that. And the Adibhautic we see every day with our senses. But I want to explain a little bit what is the Adidevic. The Adidevic is not yet, with some mathematics they try to understand how the laws of nature come forth out of the unified field. But I want to explain it how Maharishi explained it. Next slide. How Maharishi explained it with a simple flower. He said, what we see on the flower, all the petals and leaves and stem and thorns and the green leaf and the pinky petal, this is the Adibhautic. Now the sap, the colorless sap, out of which all these qualities in the flower come, this is the Adhyatmic. Now where is the Adidevic? The Adidevic is the sprouting moment where the intelligence in the sap is manifesting at some space as a leaf, on another as a petal, and a third as a stem, as a thorn, etc. This is that way, that Kriya Shakti. The Adhyatmic is the Gyan Shakti, and this is the Kriya Shakti, the Adidevic. Now if a gardener has some sick flowers, what does he do? He doesn't go and put a bandage around the leaf. He treats the roots. He puts some manure. Now, is there a way of putting a manure to the world for a sick world? We know that in the Vedic technologies, we have the kalpa, which gives us the advice how to do the things. Now, if a gardener, for example, wants to make a blue line on the green leaf, then he would have to do something to the seed. Now, for heaven's sake, don't misunderstand. It's an analogy, and I'm not advocating genetic manipulation. Definitely not. Maharishi said GMO is the most dangerous thing the world has ever seen. It's more dangerous than all the atomic arsenals. No, that's not what I'm promoting. Because we have genetic manipulations also in the Ved, but that is not genetic manipulation, but for example, Veda Vyasa in the Mahabharata did with the Kauravas. That was Vedic engineering, not genetic engineering. Veda Vyasa didn't use any gene gun, he used mantras. And the moment we use mantras, we include the laws of nature of the Adidevic. Modern medicine, the reductionistic science, is only on the adipautic level. But the Vedic engineering is including Adidevic and Adhyatmic, and we have to use the Adhyatmic also. Because if probably I would have these mantras, exactly pronounce it properly the way Veda Vyasa said properly, I don't think I would produce the Kauravas. Because one needs the consciousness which Veda Vyasa had, that absolute most refined level of the Adhyatmic, that unity consciousness, that supreme level of consciousness, only then it works, because there is a Richa in the Rigved, Riksho Akshare Parame Vyoman Yasmin Deva Dinisha Vishatu Yasta Naved Kim Richa Karishyati. Meaning, if you do not know that level of para, where all the laws of nature, all the devas reside, then whatever you do, whatever pratna, puja, yagya you do, will be not that effective. But if you are on that level of adhyatmic, then it is working. Now the question is there a science in the Vedic literature by which we can change a sick world, a world full of tension? When Maharishi came in the 60s, he found a world of superpowers rivaling, a very dangerous situation. Anytime the Third World War would have broken out. And Maharishi in fact said, if I'm not fast enough, then only 1/3 of mankind will survive. So what Maharishi did, he quickly taught people, and he tested out, what did Vashishta teach to Ram? Vashishta told Ram, if you have 5% people meditating in your kingdom, you won't have any problem. This is in Yoga Vashishtha in the 6th chapter. You won't have any problem. It's an ideal society, no sickness, no akraman from outside, no bad weather conditions, no earthquake for that matter, but we just witnessed a few days ago. So all this is a question of how the laws of nature are nourished, are balanced. The laws of nature mean the Adidevic. If the Adidevic are not nourished properly, are weak, then we have all these problems. So that's why Yoga Vashishtha said to Ram, have 5% people meditating. Next slide. Now what happened, Maharishi, is he reached in 1974 the point that he had at least 1%. 11 cities where 1% of the people were practicing TM, and we could see the crime rate goes down. Next slide. Maharishi was very happy, and he inaugurated next year in 1975 the dawn of the age of enlightenment. He said, to the window of science we see a possibility of a new age. Next slide. Now Vashishtha gave a warning to Ram. He said, if the people are not regularly, it will fall back and you will have problems. Next slide. So then he said, you have to have to have a group of people, a small group, because you cannot control your citizens 5% or 1%, you don't know what they do tomorrow. But if you have a group of people in your palace meditating and doing advanced techniques like cities, like described in the Yoga Sutras and yogic flying, next slide, then you will have no problems. We see also in the Shiva Samhita that if a yogi lifts up, then the darkness of the world will go. So next slide. That indeed, Maishi in 1976, he started to teach the city to thousands of TM teachers. And in 1978, we had enough to actually experiment it. Due to time, I just say it quickly. There are many researchers done it. I can give you a PDF with 50 of these researchers. It's absolutely mind-blowing, amazing. So what we have seen here, we went to 5 places on the planet where there was chaos, the proxy wars between the superpowers. And within no time, within a day or two, you could see the difference when our people arrived. 140 here, 160 there, 260 here, 500 here, like that. Immediately, the conflicts cooled down. And unfortunately, next slide, when the people left, it was scientifically also validated with this, data bank. Next slide. Now, unfortunately, what happens? The moment the people leave, it collapses, exactly as Vashishta was explaining it to Ramji. He said, the moment the people not doing it, it will collapse. And that's exactly what we saw. And this researcher have selected, that was done in Lebanon in 1983. We wanted to see what will be the effect in Lebanon if we have 200 people meditating, doing yogic flying and cities in Jerusalem West, which is about 150, 200 kilometers away from the center of Lebanon. It's an amazing idea. It's a crazy idea. How does this work, for heaven's sake? I will just explain it to you in a moment. But indeed, because we were unlucky for Lebanon, but luckily for scientific research, there were not 200 people available. It was fluctuating between, I think, 82 to 234. And whenever our people were many, war intensity was less. Whenever our people was less, war intensity was going up. So this was eventually published in the Journal for Conflict Resolution by the Yale University. Now I want to show you one more. Next. When we did the same thing with the whole nation. For 13 years, Mozambique was in a complete chaos. Civil war, no food, drought, just the poorest nation on the planet. President Chissano agreed to make the experiment. We sent hundreds of people there to teach 16,000 soldiers. Within 3 months, the nation was turned around. He was invited by President Clinton and he asked him, what for heaven's sake did you do? Because the New York Times had an article headline, Mozambique, an African success story.